that you were born.
Where'd you move here from? Dumbsville?
Yo, I hit the jeweler, got some goals. I sold a little weed, but I could never sell my soul. And when I'm in LA, you find me out in Lil Soap. Come a bogo with my ramen, I'ma need another bowl.
Ah, Mr. West, how goes?
I ain't got time for introductions. How's it done the project going?
If you insist, then sir, Phase 4 God's plan is at 67% functionality.
And what about the vibration?
Mr. Carter is working on that phase now, but fair warning, you know how long he can take with his projects.
Now play the sheet back, wait.
I tell him to hurry his ass up. And what about phase 6 preparation?
Preparation is nearly complete.
Good, those bitch ass people on this bitch ass world won't see me coming. Tell this twisted world that Yeezy's in the building. Oh, and by the way, from now on, just call me Yee.
If you insist, Mr. Yee.
2 lessons that he passed along to his children. The first is that no matter what, you never abandon your family.
Oh, how I miss you, my dear. We may be separated, but I know that God will bring us back together. I promise you, my dear. Retribution.
You guys hear something? Anyways, open season 2, one of the worst things I've ever seen in my fucking life. Like, okay, the first open season wasn't a masterpiece, but it was like fine. It was certainly a movie that I could indeed watch. But this movie, open season 2, this was terrible. This is one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my life. This is like alpha and omega levels of terrible. Oh my god! Like, to the people who made this, all I gotta say is, this movie is terrible, and I'm gonna show you why. This is open season 2, I guess. So our film opens with Ashton Kutcher, who isn't played by Ashton Kutcher anymore, giving opening narration.
His strength, his masculinity, his awesomeness.
49 seconds into this movie, and I wanna fucking off myself.
His amazing kick buttosity.
Might run off the road and kill myself.
So Ashton Kutcher has some new antlers, I guess, which of course leads to some really funny moments.
Like my antlers. Yeah! Oh, my rack is huge.
It's also revealed that Ashton Kutcher is getting married to the deer from the first movie. I sure hope you remember what her character is like, because I certainly don't. But then Ashton Kutcher comedically falls down and breaks his horns. And he's really sad about it, but then an impromptu rabbit fight happens. Yes, that is as jarring as it sounds. Oh, and by the way, yes, this movie does look like dog shit. This is actually on par with the Alpha and Omega movies. I kid you not. Did they take footage from the open season video game? What the fuck is this? Now, yes, this is a direct-to-DVD movie in the US. Yeah, that's right. In other countries, this was released theatrically, including Squid Game South Korea. Just to keep that in mind. Anyways, meanwhile, the human characters from the first movie are looking for the Cosmodor dog character. And they're like, ew! What? What is this character model? This is horrible! So anyways, one rap battle later, the wedding ceremony begins.
We're gathered today for a very serious occasion.
Holy shit, that is the worst Patrick Warburton impression I've ever heard. They really couldn't get the Yo Mama guy to do it. So Ashton Kutcher is nervous about the long-term commitment. And meanwhile, the German dog character goes wandering off and sees some treats on the floor. And he eats it, I guess. And Ashton Kutcher sees this and runs to him, ruining the whole wedding. Mr. Weenie is then taken by the human from the first movie. And then there's a yellow filter over this movie all of a sudden. Yes, I love watching my movies in piss. And Ashton Kutcher comedically tells everyone about it.
He screamed, but she ignored his cry.
Man urinates on fellow passengers.
So the joke lasts for another 15 years because that's funny, I guess. And they all decide to go find Mr. Wiener.
I am feeling it.
Meanwhile, Mr. Weenie is captured and tortured, and the female character is riding with the whole RV pack, which is where we meet these characters. One of them being the villain, and the other one being the comedy.
How long do you think it'll be till we stop? Cause I gotta poop.
So they all make a pit stop, and we're introduced to the comedically stupid cat character, whose only purpose in this movie is to tell what I think are jokes. But they're so unfunny that the only way I can tell is through the cues of this movie.
Is this ringing a bell?
There's many humor, many...
Finally, it's been ages.
Is this like a new form of comedy? This is the first Strand-type humor. So the villain Chihuahua character then gives his evil villain backstory on why he hates wild animals, where he's jump-scared by a ladybug and has a very minor injury on his tail, which is the punchline of the joke, by the way.
That is one sad tale.
I want a girlfriend.
I'm looking for a beautiful lady.
Don't you understand? We must remain vigilant. Even one wild animal among us.
Cut back to Ashton Kutcher and crew. So the female deer character is all like,
Well, I was saying I do.
You were looking like you did it.
Man, you know, this is what I always wanted in my open season movie. Contrived marriage problems.
We're partners. You can tell me anything.
Every day I wake up and I hope you're dead.
Everyone has Uno, dipshit. It came free with your fucking Xbox.
Don't. I got mine on day one, you fucking tard.
Oh
So TLDR, they find Mr. Weenie. But Ashton Kutcher is trying to say it's a fake dog because he's too scared of getting married.
That's a totally different dog.
This is so contrived it actually hurts. So they all sneak up to the RV, but it turns out Mr. Weenie is locked up. So Ashton Kutcher comes on this guy. So one funny slapstick scene later, they end up freeing Mr. Weenie. But because Ashton Kutcher is a moron, he accidentally locks him in the RV. And the family gets away with Mr. Weenie again. You know, I'm really happy my time isn't being wasted. We then get more marriage problems. And this time it's because the female character is giving orders.
We're not even married yet, and you're already telling me what to do.
Golly, I love contrivances. But then suddenly, Ashton Kutcher thinks that Boog and his bland girlfriend character are cheating on him.
Boog! You traitor!
And they split up because that's the conflict. So one walking scene later, the human characters arrive at a camping site where Mr. Weenie is forced to wear an electric shock collar. He's then reintroduced to all these side dog characters, and then the bad guy Chihuahua starts talking. But then Mr. Weenie's all like, "But the wild animals were my friends!" And all the tame animals are shocked by this.
Nines, wild animals are my friends.
Fuck no, baby!
This of course leads to the other animals 1984ing him.
It is worse than I could have ever imagined. Your friends? It's worse than I could have ever imagined.
So I guess they decide to euthanize him or something.
Prepare the tent.
Meanwhile, via the ducks, Boog finds out where Mr. Weenie is.
Mr. Weenie is over the trees, past the lake, and the mountain, at the campsite with some dogs.
And yeah, that's about it. Meanwhile, that night, Mr. Weenie is brutally tortured. And that's about it. Nothing else to really say here. There's a joke about squeaky toys because you get it, he's a dog. And he's forced to fetch a stick or else, I don't know, a Squid Game. But then the funny porcupine from the first movie comes in. And this allows Mr. Weenie to escape the tent and for a funny slapstick scene to happen. In TLDR, Mr. Weenie goes free. And the villain gets comedically injured, I guess. Also, the humans from the first movie are very sad that Mr. Weenie has gone missing. As you can tell, I am very emotionally attached to these good characters. Meanwhile, Boog jump scares these people, giving his crew a campsite for the night. And the well-written female character talks about how much she hates Ashton Kutcher.
You know what? I'm glad Elliot's out of my life.
I mean, have you seen that 70s show? Terrible! Cut to Ashton Kutcher all alone and he's really sad. And that's about it.
Let me tell you about a girl that I know.
We then cut to Pet Paradiso.
Welcome to the Los Pollos Hermanos family.
Which is an amusement park made exclusively for pets. Which sounds like the biggest corporate waste of money of all time. Like, you make an entire themed water park with jungles and everything for creatures that are cognitively unable to give a shit. They build a whole theme park around stuff you can do in your backyard. Okay, well, maybe not that. Anyways, meanwhile, Mr. Weenie runs into Ashton Kutcher. And he's all like, "Oh, Boog and Giselle are in trouble!" How he knows this is beyond me. But I guess this subplot is happening now, so who gives a shit? Meanwhile, our main characters wonder how to get inside. So they dress up in really bad pet disguise, and Giselle sneaks inside. But while inside, they run into a Cuban stereotype character.
Good looks and funny too. But I was not talking to the Dalmatian.
I want Sosa's head on a fucking platter, man.
So they keep moving around the park with Xavier Renegade Angel models, but then they're spotted by the bad guys, I guess. Meanwhile, Ashton Kutcher shows up, and he runs into Boog, I guess. But it's then revealed that Giselle has been captured. So now the plot shifts from finding Mr. Weenie to finding Giselle. Which, on that note, holy shit, this film has ADHD or something. There are so many plot points, but this movie cannot pick one to focus on. And the awful pacing certainly doesn't help. If you're wondering why this review up to this point has been incoherent and really disjointed, it's because the movie is actually like this. Anyways, so Ashton Kutcher becomes a woman, and they all sneak in, and that's about it. Meanwhile, Giselle is captured, and the evil bad guy character plans on putting shock collars on them.
Collar them! Collar them!
Shut the fuck up!
But then Ashton Kutcher comes in, but his plan epic fails because it cuts to him getting captured. Not even joking, it just cuts. Gotta love how lazy this shit is. Meanwhile, Boog is invading the water park, but he then loses his disguise, and all the humans take notice, causing the guards to pull out their fucking water gun. This causes a funny slapstick scene, of course. Meanwhile, Ashton Kutcher talks to his wife one more time.
If this is the end, I need to say something. Giselle, before the wedding, my rack was huge. There was the whole incident with the other woman.
Another woman?
The kind that grabbed Mr. Weenie.
But thankfully Boo comes in and saves the day or something. So Boo sets them free, but the bad guy is still doing shit. So a big ol' slapstick scene happens, who gives a fuck? And long story short, they murder the bad guy. Yeah, he really dies in this movie. We then cut to Ashton Kutcher talking about racism or something. But then, it turns out Mr. Weenie doesn't want to be free anymore.
Just like you, I have realized that if you're never tied to anything, you'll never be free.
So he goes back to the human characters, making this entire movie a waste of my fucking time. So anyways, Ashton Kutcher confesses his love again, which leads to him...
They long to be close to you.
That's the most romantic
Why
thing.
no?
Understands me. You never understood anything. Nobody wants me, so they can all just die.
Then what is your hand for?
Nobody cares whether or not I exist, so they can all just die.
Then tell me, what is your heart for?
Is it okay for me to be here?
Close to you.
Yeah, they included a song number in this, and it's horrible. It's out of nowhere. It's pointless. It's not even original either. It's a shitty cover of a Carpenter's song. This is like Alpha and Omega bad. You know what? To whoever did this.
You know what, Giselle?
You serve zero purpose.
And then at long last, the movie ends.
Close to you!
Wilp, that was awful. I kid you not, that was genuinely one of the worst things I've seen in a while. It's that whole kind of, we gotta get character X back type plot, while also combined with the marriage sequel. And that, on the surface, would have been fine, I guess, if the film did anything with that. But it didn't, making the film extremely predictable. And anything new it does do, it isn't very good at. Case in point, all of the new and old characters are extremely boring. In fact, I've already forgotten them. Who the fuck is this guy? Also, why are Giselle and Mr. Weenie the focus of this movie? I really don't think they're strong enough to support this kind of plot. In the original movie, they were either plot tropes or joke characters. And trying to give them arcs while also not really fleshing them out goes about as well as you think. The animation is shit. It's extremely janky. There aren't too many animation errors, but holy shit if it isn't an eyesore. The pacing is also horrible too. It's way too fast and disjointed. It wants to replicate the fast-pacedness of the original movie, but it ends up feeling extremely rushed. It's like they wrote it as they went along, but never actually did any other drafts. It's kind of like my own video, only with a shitty song number at the end. Overall, this movie sucks. Fuck my life.
You know what? I agree with your opinion, man.
Yeah, you see, Kanye agrees with me. What? Kanye!
Fuck you in the lanes you came with. Me and you ain't on the same shit. You ain't in my lane, bitch. Nah, throw that shit in fifth. Rollie on my wrist. Ay, baby, you a star. I'm my only wish. I'm counting blue hundreds. I'm too money. Ay, and my little bitch, she too lovely. Yeah, hanging up and calling me right back. Ay, baby, why you calling me like that? Yeah, getting high with the seat, lay back. Baby, gon' relax, yeah. Hey, they don't know the half, yeah. No matter what happened, I got your back. Baby, that's the facts, yeah. That's the facts, yeah. Yeah, we can fight, but the feeling's gone. I try to find the words, but they never come. I can still see you on the lawn. Hey, laying outside in the summer sun. Yeah, we can fight, but the feeling's gone. I try to find the words, but they never come. I can still see you on the lawn. Hey, baby, that's the facts, yeah. That's the facts, yeah.
Have you ever played the hit game Among Us?